Now, Chancellor Rachel Reeves is on her way to Washington today on the face of it to attend the IMF spring meeting, where it's expected to lower its annual growth forecast. But she will be hoping to also conclude a UK-US trade deal. Well, Lesley Batchelor is an expert in global trade and a former Director General at the Institute of Export and International Trade. And she joins me now. Good afternoon to you, Lesley.
Hello, Hayley.
So this is behind everything, really, this trade deal, which I'm sure a lot of progress has probably been made, behind the scenes. How likely is it that Rachel Reeves will be able to push this forward on this trip?
Well, I think one of the important things is to remember that actually it's not what we call a comprehensive free trade agreement. They're labelling it an economic deal, which would operate under different sort of rules and international law. So it's quite important just to make that differential, just in case. Free trade agreements obviously have a lot of different details to them, but predominantly, I think we seem to be looking at, the issues around technology and AI, biotechnology, innovative pharmaceuticals, the financial services and machinery and defence. And I suppose the good things is that there's nothing on the table, or apparently on the table, about our NHS. There's been nothing on the table about our carbon border adjustment mechanism, which is quite important as far as emissions and things are concerned. But I am worried about the Online Safety Act that we've got, and also the fact that there's this digital service tax that could be something that they might want us to do. And there are a lot of issues around that, around the digital sovereignty of the UK if we hand those over.
Yeah, it's interesting that a lot of aspects of this and the key sort of factors here are not what you would call the traditional, goods that are traded. It's very much services. And as you say, what happens with tech companies who seem to be very close to Donald Trump.
And this is absolutely the most worrying thing. Of course, we can't forget about our car industry that's going to be absolutely hammered. This is not good, but we do have top range cars, which actually tend, I suppose, to have a little more price elasticity in there. In that, if you can afford, a Bentley, then actually a little bit more on top of it isn't perhaps going to become the huge issue. I think in that respect, we're quite lucky. But yeah, it is very worrying around the tech, because actually we don't really understand exactly that, when we're part of the whole digital revolution, but we're not the leaders in the revolution, and it would be great if we could understand what they're trying to do. I think the digital tax at the moment is only 2%, as they say. They don't have that in the USA. But if you think about it, the number of high street shops we lose because, they have more costs than somebody who's set up a digital service, it impacts on all of our community when this thing happens.
Yeah, it's interesting, some of the things that have been mentioned here, where the US has talked about, freedom of speech in the UK, being sort of a factor in all of this. I mean, we might, we'll have seen deals done in the past with countries, perhaps where they've had to, make concessions, or there's been some stipulation made on human rights or something. But it seems, quite remarkable that something like this would be included in a deal with the UK.
Yes, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, the thing that this act covers are things like illegal content, child safety, empowering users to actually see more transparency in the higher risk platforms, new offences like cyber flashing and deep fake pornography. There should be an enforcement body. We are suggesting that Ofcom should be doing that, and some heavy fines for non-compliance. I actually think that these are good things, and we've got to make our mind up whether we want to have this, because if we start losing things now and we do it on the spur of the moment, there are 2.5 million jobs at stake, with the trade wars, as they're calling it. This is causing us all a lot of anguish, and what we really need to do is make sure we know what our future looks like. And by giving away some of these things, I did think I heard her say somewhere that she was not going to make a rush, because we rushed into the Australian trade deal as well. So, let's try not to rush into it.
Yeah, and just briefly, what about the steel industry? The reason the tariffs were brought in the first place, what's likely to happen there?
Well, I mean, I really don't have a magic wand to wave over all this. I think it was very sensible to keep the steel industry or some semblance of steel industry in this country because I think it's very important for our manufacturing. I'm sorry, I can't tell you what's going to happen there. It doesn't seem to be on the table, although I suppose it could be on the table under machinery and defence. I'm not sure. We just don't know the full details yet, but it's an interesting story as it unfolds.
Definitely. And agriculture also, farmers here were worried that the market would be swamped with American chlorinated chicken and things
Yeah.
like that. I mean, do we have much room for negotiating there?
Well, this is the whole problem. We have what 70 million people, and they have 345 million people. Their buying power is a lot more than our buying power, and it's what we call an asymmetric deal. So this is we've got to negotiate on different elements. The element of the service industry is very great, and the element of agriculture is huge. Whether people will buy these things is very difficult to say, and of course it goes further down the food chain when we don't see it.
Okay. Lesley, thank you very much indeed for that. Lesley Batchelor there, Director General of the Institute of Export and International Trade.